So for the first part of my presentation, I'm going to do an interactive part, and this is going to be having the audience close their eyes. I'm going to speak to them without letting them see my body movements or my gestures, and then I'm going to ask them to guess what they think that my body gestures and movements might have been based on my tone of voice. When they open their eyes, I'm going to show them what I was doing, and they can see if they were correct or not, and if the tone of my voice kind of predicted the body gesture or the body movements and the gestures that I was making. Alright. If you've ever listened to anyone speak about nonverbal communication, you've probably already heard that it's an important part of being an effective communicator. But how important is it? Author and educator Peter Drucker once said that the most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't said. If this is true, how does nonverbal communication affect those in a team or group setting, and how can your business benefit from learning the different aspects of nonverbal communication? Nonverbal communication can be broken into 4 main categories. These categories are eye contact, facial expression, tone of voice, and posture and gesture. Understanding each of these categories and how they work together is vital for success as an effective communicator. Along with this, being an effective communicator is vital when working in a team or group. Dr. Albert Moravian, author of Silent Messages, conducted a study exploring the importance of nonverbal communication. Moravian concluded that 7% of a message is conveyed through a person's word. So according to Dr. Moravian, that would mean that 93% of a message is conveyed through a person's nonverbal communication. Today, however, research says that nonverbal communication accounts for between 60 and 90% of what a person says. What's important to remember, however, is that no matter the exact percentage, most communication is nonverbal. In fact, it can be said that nonverbal communication is the most crucial aspect of communication. At this point in my speech, I'm going to do another interactive part. So I'm going to have the audience watch what I do with my hand, and I'm going to ask them to do a specific task. So basically what I'm trying to see is if they listen to what I am saying or they watch what I do. If they listen to what I'm saying, they will do something different than what I do with my hand. So I'm just going to see if they rely on my voice or my gestures more. Now that you know the importance of nonverbal communication, let's look at how you can use your body to help convey the meaning of a message to others in a group. What's important is to be aware of what a message your body is sending. It's important to be aware of what your body looks like to its audience. Now, all of these things that I'm about to say are subjective. There's no exact science to say whether these are exactly things that are true or not true. It's just kind of how the majority of people feed off of this type of body language, or just kind of like the message that most people get when these are done. So, the members of your team or group feed off of the body language and tone of voice you use. The following are important to consider when talking and presenting in front of others, but remember these are not all set in stone. The first tip is to keep your head up. Bowing or tilting your head can show signs of submission. I forgot to add, these are all done by a researcher named DiPaolo, and the study was done in 1992. Tip number 2 is to avoid excessive blinking. This shows lack of confidence to your audience. Tip number 3 is to use your hands. Palms facing up show openness, while palms facing down show signs of resistance to your audience. Tip number 4 is to use appropriate eye contact. It's important to make eye contact with everyone in your group. No eye contact with someone can mean that you are leaving them out or you're avoiding talking to them, and too much eye contact can make someone feel uncomfortable. This is especially important in a group setting. You want everyone to feel included, and you want everyone to feel like they are a part of the team. So eye contact with everyone is very important. Tip number 5 is the tone of voice can determine your disposition. It's not necessarily to be loud in order to be powerful with words. Sometimes the most powerful words are often soft-spoken. Tone of voice can display your emotions. So if I'm talking like this, I can seem a little forceful, while if I'm talking like this, I can seem a little timid. All right. In teams and groups, it's likely that people will come from different cultures and backgrounds. So it is very important to be aware of the cultures that are present in your own groups and teams. This can determine some of the hand gestures that you use. A pointed finger or a simple peace sign might have a different meaning in some cultures. It's always important to just research the cultures that are present in your group and know some of the main things that you should or shouldn't do, in front of that person. It might be a sign of being rude, or it may be, just mean something completely different in their culture than it does in yours. Teams and groups need to be aware of proper ways to communicate with each other. Examples of this are making sure everyone gets equal time to speak, making sure your body is not closed off to certain individuals in a group, and understanding the power of standing versus sitting when speaking to someone. So all of these things show signs of power. So when someone is standing over you speaking, it sometimes means that they want power over you. And so it's important to know that everyone should be in an open environment where no one is on a higher level than another when working in a team or group. This can make people feel intimidated or not empowered to do their part in a job. So it's also, just very important to make sure that people get adequate time to speak so that they all feel included and that they're all participating and adding to what's being said or created in the group. Your body language is certain to play a role in the message you're trying to send to your audience. Now, let's look at the 5 main effects of nonverbal communication. According to Edward G. Wertheim, author of The Importance of Effective Communication, there are 5 main effects that nonverbal communication can have. The first effect is repetition. The use of repetition can reinforce what a speaker is trying to say. It shows the importance of something without blatantly saying, hey, this right here is something important. The second effect is contradiction. Body language and the words a speaker is saying can sometimes contradict each other. This can make a speaker seem misleading. If a person is saying something but their body language is saying something completely different, it's hard to trust them and understand what they're exactly trying to say. The third effect is substitution. Body language and hand gestures can sometimes take the place of a spoken word. This means that some things don't necessarily need to be said aloud. A simple hand gesture can sometimes be all the message that you need to send in order to relay what you're trying to say. The fourth effect is complimenting. Hand gestures and body language can accentuate what's being said. They go hand in hand in creating a message that can be understood. The fifth effect is accenting. Nonverbal communication can draw attention to certain points of your message. Tone of voice and body language can help draw attention to these important parts. So if I'm talking about something important and that I really want you to understand, I might make my gestures bigger, I might make my tone of voice more serious, I might speak in a slightly louder tone just so that the audience can understand that this is an important part of my message. It's important to remember that nonverbal communication can be helpful or harmful to a speaker. Some of these effects have positive outcomes and some of them have negative outcomes. So use your nonverbal communication to your advantage and make sure that what your body is saying is also in the words that you are speaking. So just make sure that they match up and that you use nonverbal communication in the right ways. Nonverbal communication is something that many people focus on. The facial expressions and tone of voice a person uses can often determine the message that they're trying to send. When working in a team or group, it's vital that everyone is aware of the nonverbal communication that they are using. Signals that someone sends via nonverbal communication can make it easy for someone to be left out or offended. But when used correctly, nonverbal communication can help teams and groups to better understand each other and to work more efficiently with each other.